Oh yes, the 1970s, a new space era, and a time of big hair, big icons, and big cars. But that's not all. It was also a time of some of history's loudest fashion. The elegant style of 70s urban wear has always caught my eye, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to take you through how today's photo shoot brings a bit of the grooviest decade back to life. I think it's rather important that I let you know that this wasn't just some random idea that I had one morning and, quickly threw on some clothes and stood in front of my camera. No. A few months ago, my Netflix discovery of That 70s Show mixed with my already existing interests in photography and music technology from the decade threw me in some sort of 70s fever, and since then, I've thrifted for wide-collared shirts and leisure suit pieces any place I possibly could. I've also been pitifully growing up my sideburns as demonstrated here. And so after weeks of period-appropriate attire collecting and other, contributing efforts, today was the day to capture it all together on camera. I knew I would want to use a couple light boxes for lighting, and so, given that this was in the middle of the day, with all the sun's glory flooding in through the windows, the first step was to make the room as dark as possible. I ended up resorting to a few unorthodox methods. You can see this is the area where the picture's going to be. You can't really see my hand, but in this area, and right now it probably looks like it's nighttime, right? Well, no, this picture has taken a lot more effort than I thought. I had to put up a wooden board. Didn't really cover the whole window, so I put the dark, thicker curtain and this blanket. And I also had to tape construction paper to the windows here, and then thumbtack a blanket, brown blanket up there, just to make sure I get as little sunlight as possible. The rest was pretty straightforward. I did a quick Google search for some iconic portraits from the 70s and found that popular backdrop colors were darker pastel colors, which I managed to imitate with the blanket I actually sleep in every night. I then positioned two lights, one behind the couch for backlighting and the other to the left of the couch as seen in this footage, but facing away from the couch so that only the light reflected off the back wall would be seen in frame. These light boxes were simply too bright to point directly on the subject. It took me a few tries to get the lighting just right. I ended up with some unpleasant experimental results such as this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and also it's getting a bit toasty in here because I had to turn my fan off. Anyway, for the camera, I would have shot on my 35mm Nikon FE, but waiting for the developed pictures just wasn't in my mood for this shoot. Instead, I was using the Nikon D7000 DSLR and a Nikon 50mm pancake lens. As for the camera settings, I wanted to play with darker exposures with these pictures. However, I still wanted the photos just a tad bit grainy to emulate the vintage film look, and so I bumped up the ISO to 800 speed, and to compensate for the brightness, I set the shutter speed to 1/100th of a second and shot with an aperture setting of f-stop 1.8. With the backlighting on, the final product looks something like this. However, with it off, I ended up with a result I liked a lot better. I chose 3 different outfits for the occasion, and each time, I had to repeat the same poses to make sure I had as many options to choose from when editing the photos in post. As you can see, I cared about every bit of my outfit except for the shoes. So, after the first few shots, although I really liked the soft halo outlining of the backlight, I just really loved the color I received from using only the primary light. It became the main setting for the rest of the photos. There were lots of great ones and some that didn't come out how I wanted. Some had failed awkward poses, and there were some where I wasn't fast enough to beat the timer, and others where I just couldn't really find my natural smile, I guess. Nevertheless, from seeing the first few pictures, I knew this self-arranged photo shoot was way more successful than I was expecting. For some of the final touches, I knew there was something about these pictures that just wasn't right. Oh yes, the hair. Oh yeah, say hello to my Fez cosplay. Finally, there needed to be one more thing to add a little more 1970s to the photo's overall character. The Polaroid SX70 was one of the most commonly used cameras of the era, and was popular among all people. It was sleek and elegant, seamlessly combining a sturdy metal body with soft leather accents. It was easy to use, and it fit perfectly in any leisure suit jacket. The ideal camera for the time. With one in my possession, I simply couldn't resist. After this photo shoot, I feel like I had every reason to join my favorite gang of friends in Eric Foreman's basement. And so, just as its music has, I hope the 1970s place in people's hearts never fades away, because it really was a groovy time to live.